FF&E schedule should be straightforward. You've selected the furniture, you've placed it into the layout, now you just need to document it. But in reality, it rarely works in that way. The drawings live in one place and the spreadsheet lives elsewhere. Product links are in a browser tab, images are in a PDF, and nothing feels really connected. And the problem with that is that counts go out of sync, tags don't match, specs get outdated, and someone is always manually updating something, consequently, of course, leading to mistakes. In this video, I want to show a cleaner way to manage FF&E in Rayon, where layouts, specifications, quantities, presentations all live together in a single connected environment. But before we get into it, if you want to follow along or try this workflow for yourself, there's a link in the description where you can create a free round account. So I'll start with this FF&E template, which was built entirely in Rayon, from layout all the way through to documentation. And just to clarify, this is a professional drawing environment. You can import DWGs, PDFs, or DWF files, edit at scale, and work precisely and accurately. So everything begins with the layout. So Rayon includes over 10,000 blocks, furnitures, fixtures, people, symbols, anything you could possibly imagine. They're all in plan, section, and elevation views. And you can see here that in this plan, we have all of these blocks imported, which you can see you can select. They're on the right-hand side here, where you can see the definition and the block instance. Now, these are all imported from the block library. So if you head to the left-hand side, head to the block library, you can see here, you can scroll down, you can select thousands of different options of blocks. And you can search through the libraries here by looking at various different items. Or you can search for the blocks manually. So if you select at the top here, you've got these kind of library and block options. If you go to blocks, you can look for individual blocks. Now this is helpful if you want to search for a particular type of block. Now in this case, you can see here that I've got this alcove sofa, which you can see here you can rotate and adjust. You can also move between different views. So every block instance will have a side, a top, and a front view. Obviously the top being in the floor plan, and then when you're working across elevations and sections, you've got then the side and front views. Now you can jump between those views like so, and we can then drop in the plan back in place. You can then rotate that and position that back into place. And another really useful type of block that I would recommend you have a look at is the parametric blocks. So you can do that by searching at the top left corner here, where you can search in the block library. If you type in parametric, you can see that each parametric block has this kind of parametric icon in the top left corner. Now to just demonstrate quickly how these work, if I drag and drop this one into place, we're just going to remove that sofa, we're going to drop this one in, and you can see here that you can scale it up and down fundamentally without adjusting or impacting any of the geometry of that block. So you can make things wider, you can make things longer. And in that case, you're basically scaling something up and down with the actual geometry not being impacted. Now I'm just going to position this block into place. So now we have this nice little kind of armchair, this little corner armchair. And you can see here we've got various different options of where you can import different styles. So I'm just flicked between this other layout that we have available to us. You can see here that we've added ceiling lamps, we've got plants, and you can see here across the section these different alternative views and how they will end up working when you're looking at section elevation. So it's really useful. These blocks are really powerful to populate your drawings. And I think the key difference here is that the furniture isn't static, it's iterative. If the client changes direction or the budget shifts, as it always does, you can test alternatives instantly without rebuilding schedules. If there are any specific blocks that you can't actually find in the library and you want to import from a manufacturer's website, for example, if you head to a website like Feature, you can download a CAD, a DWG, and then you can create a block out of that CAD, which is really useful if you have a particular product that you want to bring into your drawing. Now, if we scroll down to our downloads, I'm just going to go to 2D and 3D data, wire chair, for example, and then we're just going to download this as a DWG. We're just going to download the zip. We're then going to open that and import it as a DWG, which you can see here, select the element. We don't need to then toggle any of those items. Click import, we'll click import, and it will drop it in at a 1:1 scale, which you can see here, it's dropped it in at 1:1 scale. You can then rotate and shift it, and then you can change the name of your block instance. So we're going to call it this, the wire chair. Now here I'm just going to quickly show you how you can build a bit of a library of all of these elements that you want to work into your floor plans. So in this case here, you can see that I've pulled a load of elements out that I want to use to populate my floor plans. I've pulled out a load of blocks from the block library and made a little bit of kind of mini library myself for my own little kind of layouts. Sometimes if you've got a particular client that you're working with who has a particular type of furniture that they use in their projects, this is where it's really important. You can build your own independent little library of those elements that you need to use for those particular types of projects. Now, if you actually want to save this as a library for team members to use and to import across your drawings and your models or projects that you're working on, if you head to the top right-hand corner, you can click Share. And then what you want to do is, if you already have team members in your workspace, in your Rayon workspace, all you have to do is go up to Libraries and just click this Publish Blocks toggle. Now, when this is turned on, anyone that's already in your team, in your Rayon team, will all of a sudden have access to this block library. I'm going to quickly show you how this works. So if we head into our model and we go to Libraries, you can see here that we've got our apartment block libraries. So we've got 98 instances here. And if we click that library, you can see here now all of those elements that I had as part of that library are now located on this left-hand side here, which is really, really useful. So now if you have any drawings or projects that you want to work on with that particular type of furniture you want to import, you can just drag and pull those into place. And fundamentally, this is building your own vendor libraries and making them accessible across all of your projects and your team's projects. And the benefit of this is that it means that it's consistent. There's no more re-downloading the same blocks again and again, or creating a kind of document to tell people which blocks to download. It's now all here in a library yourself. Now, to build this into your layout and attach live properties to your blocks, you can create and apply your own properties, such as manufacturer, model numbers, finishes, costs, lead time, all of these different elements that you might feel that are important to building a schedule of information that is important for your FF&E schedules. So some of these fields will already exist in the template in this case, but you can also add your own. You can see here, for example, we've selected this coffee table and we already have a load of instance properties applied in this template. We've got the brand, we've got the class, we've got the color, quantity, brand, category, lead time, unit cost, etc. You can add all of this data that will live with that block. And you can see here the same with this small coffee table in the corner. We've already applied all of those elements. Now, to quickly show you how you can apply these properties and how these properties work, we're just going to select the chair that we imported. And this is actually a product that I found online. This is a £329 Chicago love seat in the color of beige. It's actually really quite a nice little armchair sofa. So we're going to start pulling some of this data and this information and adding those properties to our sofa. So you can see here that we can then start clicking the plus button, so we can add some more instances. We can add a color, for example. I'm just going to type in beige. We can then add unit cost, and then alternatively, you can also start adding some images and some links to your products. Now, this is particularly useful because, of course, when you're building a drawing like this and you want the client to have easy access or easy reference to these products that you're importing, you can select a block and you can then basically find the link or the image associated with that block. So this works simply by, if we save an image, we then hit the plus property. We're going to create a new property. We're going to call that product image. We're going to change the type to an image here, and then we can just click save. And then if you click the product image, you can then select that image, and you'll see here that when it's loaded, there you go, it's now dropping and associated with it. You can do the same with a link as well. So if you select then add property, we'll then add a link. So we're just going to call that product link. The type then will of course become a link then, and then you can then click save, and then you can add a link. And the beauty of this is when you select that product, you can click this little link button in the corner and it'll take you straight to that product. And of course, then we can then pull this information out into a schedule, into a live table. And this data lives directly with the object, not in a disconnected spreadsheet. So in tables, this is where all your input information can be displayed clearly and effectively. Now, the way this works is to use tables. So if you head to the left-hand side here, we're going to click a new table. And you'll see that when you create a new table, it will almost bring everything into the table. And we'll obviously have to start working into this. So you can see here that we've got pretty much everything. We've got different wall types, window types, everything pretty much that you could have in the model. So what you want to do is go to categories. We're going to toggle off wall and zone, and we're just going to keep it with a block instance. So it's only now going to pick up elements that are blocks. We then want to add a column. So we're just going to click add column. Now this is where you can add your data regarding the brands, regarding to the quantities, regarding to the link, images, etc. So we're just going to add product category to begin with. And you can see here that it's got all of the different categories alongside it. We've got toilet, chairs, arch openings, and then we can add the brand. For example, we can then add the product images, and then if we add the product link, and we can go full screen if you want to have a look in a little bit more detail. Now, one thing we can do is we can start then also organizing and filtering and grouping by brands, by categories. For example, in this case, we're going to group by brand and then filter out the Cave Home brand. You can see all the quantities on the right hand side. If any categories missing, you can then add in, for example, in this case, we're going to add in lamp lighting category. We can then do includes maybe the dusk, so we can now try and find that particular element. So we're going to find now the brand that has got the dusk. So this is now the armchair that we've imported, the Love Chair armchair. And we can now say that we want 2 of those. And now if you work into your floor plans, if you work into your model canvas and start updating this information, for example, all of a sudden you need 5 of these chairs rather than 2. If you change that to then 5, you'll see that it updates then in your table, which is really useful. Now, an alternative or a different type of table that you could produce is a kind of a status table. So you can identify what has been ordered, what types of chairs have already been ordered, or what the lead times might be. So this table is identifying the brand, the name, the quantity, the status, and then also the lead time with the price of the unit as well. Now this is really useful then if you want to start tracking, okay, if you've ordered a certain type of sofa or a certain type of chair or a certain type of coffee table or whatever it might be, you can then start documenting what's been ordered and what hasn't been ordered. And then we can then import that. Once you're happy with the information, you can then import that into your model canvas, and we can then have that located alongside your floor plan. So you can refer to the 2 drawings. And you can then customize this table after you've imported it. You can extend and shorten certain elements. You can then change some of the font colors, for example. You can change the font type, and you can then start working into the table to customize it. For example, we might want to give all of these top elements maybe a bit of a color, so it has a bit of a title, maybe make that a little bit bolder. And then we could change all of those order items to green, for example. And of course, if you want to export any of these tables individually, you can still export them to Excel or using a CSV, but you're no longer dependent on it. And because they live side by side, if you move a chair, replace a sofa, change a price, the schedule updates automatically. So you want no recounting and no broken formulas. And I think that's really important with schedules. And then if you want to start building a presentation from that floor plan and those schedules, you can then create a page, for example. You can then scale that up and down. We can then adjust that to customize it as you wish. We're just going to keep it as an A3 page at this point. We're then going to head to the block library. We're going to bring in a title block. So if we scroll all the way down to title blocks and annotations, we then find an A3 title block that we can just click and drag into place, which you can see here. You can then start adjusting and amending certain elements. For example, we'll change this page number to page 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a view now into our model canvas. So if you click this plus button, go to view, and you'll see that we'll have then fundamentally a viewport into our model canvas. And you can then change the scale. You can then crop these elements down, you can crop the view down, and then we can place it onto the page. And then you can also then insert your table. So we're just going to click insert, we can head to our table, and then as you drag this down, you'll see then we can then position that in place and once again customize it. Now with a bit of work, you can see here that we've added a little bit of a title. So we've got equipment and furniture table. We've added some kind of image references on the left hand side here, and as we zoom out, you can see here now we've got a full presentation with our floor plans, with our different elements, with the budget, and we've got a mood board, and we've got paint palette, and we've worked all of these elements in. And now these are all just viewports into model canvases. You can also add text onto it, you can add images onto it, you can customize this as a full presentation. FF&E schedules shouldn't feel like an afterthought. They should be built into your presentation as we've shown. And as you can see, this becomes a clean presentation ready FF&E package because everything stays connected. Changes to layout automatically update with the documentation. And now this is where it becomes collaborative and where you can work as a team. Now to work on a team on a project like this and to allow your team members to comment, to view, to also make changes to your model, You can head to the top right hand corner here and click share. And you've got these different options. You've got access libraries, template presentations. Now you can invite a team member as a viewer, editor, or admin, for example. You can then invite them by clicking the invite button, or you could have a public link where you can then share a public link so anyone can access it. You can then publish your libraries, you can publish your templates, and you can publish your presentation, which I think is really quite handy. Publishing your presentation means that you can basically create a link for that presentation, which you can then flick through, as you can see here. And then if you want to add any comments as a team, you can head to the left-hand side here. You can add comments such as make timber floor finish darker, post that, and then someone can respond or react to that comment. We can then say we love this rug, for example, which is it's a pretty nice rug. And you can see here that now the comments are quite visible and can live in the drawing. Now, if you export any of these drawings, of course, the comments won't exist on them, but they just exist in the workspace. And the beauty of having a link is that you don't have to email PDFs back and forth. You can share the link, which is live. Stakeholders will always see the most up-to-date version because the model is live. And because the schedule is tied to the drawing, there's then no coordination gap. It all links together. FF&E planning is never static. It evolves with design, budget, and feedback. When your drawings and schedules are disconnected, mistakes are almost inevitable. But when they live together, layout, data, and presentation, the process becomes simpler, faster, and far more reliable. If you want to try this workflow for yourself, there's a link in the description to create a free Rayon account and explore this template used in this tutorial. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.